Okay, let's set the scene. Imagine the massive battlefield of Kurukshetra. You've got two huge armies, literally filled with cousins, friends, and teachers, all staring each other down. They're about to fight a war that's going to change everything. You can just feel the tension in the air.
Right, so in the middle of all this chaos, a prince says just one sentence, but it's not a command, it's a weapon. So how can a few little words spoken to your own ally be more damaging than an arrow? Well, it's an absolute masterclass in psychological warfare, and that's the puzzle we're going to unpack right now.
So, just as the battle is about to kick off, Prince Duryodhana walks over to his top general, the legendary warrior and teacher, Dronacharya. But, he's not there for a blessing or some last-minute strategy. Nope, he's there to plant a very specific seed of doubt.
And this is what he says. Now, on the surface, it sounds pretty straightforward, right? He's just pointing out the enemy's battle formation, which was put together by a guy named Duryodhana. But that last part, the son of Drupada, that's not just a name. Oh no, it's a trigger. It's a key that unlocks a whole history of pain.
And this is the central question, isn't it? I mean, Duryodhana knows who all of Drona's students are. So why single out this one commander by mentioning his father? What was he really trying to do, just moments before the biggest battle of their lives? To really get the power of those words, we have to jump in a time machine and go way back. Long before any of this, there was this childhood friendship between our teacher, Drona, and a young prince named Drupada. A friendship that was going to curdle into a really bitter, generation-spanning feud.
Let's just trace how this all went so wrong. It starts off great. They're best friends in school. Drupada even makes this grand promise to give Drona half his kingdom one day. But of course, years go by and life happens. Drona ends up a poor teacher, while Drupada becomes this incredibly powerful king. So, when Drona's family is in need, he goes to his old friend. Not for half a kingdom, but just for a single cow. A really humble request, right? But what he gets instead is a soul-crushing insult. And this right here, this is the exact moment that friendship died. I mean, look at the difference. Drona comes to him as an old friend, but King Drupada, full of pride, just demolishes him with these words. He doesn't just say no, he says it publicly, humiliating Drona, basically telling him a poor teacher could never be friends with a king. And that one insult, well, that becomes the seed for a terrible, terrible revenge.
But see, that humiliation wasn't the end of it. Not even close. It was actually just the beginning of this vicious cycle, where each act of revenge just got bigger and more destructive than the one before it.
Let's just follow this downward spiral. First, Drupada insults Drona. In retaliation, Drona has his students, the Pandavas, go and defeat Drupada in battle. Then, for his revenge, Drona takes exactly half of Drupada's kingdom. So now Drupada's the one who's humiliated, and he gets so obsessed that he performs this huge, powerful ritual with only one goal in mind: to have a son whose sole purpose would be to kill Drona.
And believe it or not, the ritual works. A son, Duryodhana, literally emerges from the sacrificial fire. And everybody, the whole kingdom, Drona himself, everybody knows this man was born for one reason and one reason only: to be the weapon that finally ends Drona's life.
Now this is where the story takes a turn that is just so profound and honestly pretty unexpected. You've got this man, Duryodhana, who is destined to kill Drona. So what do you think happens when this very man shows up at Drona's doorstep and asks to be taught the art of war? I mean, that's the million-dollar question, right? Why on earth would Drona agree to train his own assassin? Why would he teach him every secret, every move, and perfect the skills of the one person born to kill him? The answer is pretty incredible. It all comes down to his sacred duty. So you can see the unbelievable conflict Drona was facing. On one hand, you have his own fated killer, and on the other, you have his sacred duty as a teacher, a brahmana, which says you have to share your knowledge with anyone who comes to you seeking it. In this impossible choice, Drona chose his duty, even over his own life.
The scriptures explain this with this really beautiful analogy. The sun, it shines on everyone equally, doesn't it? A saint, a thief, a king, a beggar, it doesn't pick and choose. A true teacher, according to this code, is supposed to be just like the sun. Your job is to give the light of knowledge to everyone, no matter who they are or what they might do with it. And so, Drona taught Duryodhana everything he knew.
Okay, so now that we have all of that backstory,
The broken friendship, the revenge, this unbelievable paradox of teaching your own killer. Let's go back to the battlefield, just moments before the war begins.
Duryodhana walks up to Drona and he says that line. But now we can feel the true weight of it, can't we? He's not just naming an enemy commander. He is deliberately and so cruelly digging up decades of pain and resentment.
So you see, this wasn't just some casual observation. It was a targeted psychological attack. Duryodhana knew his teacher, Drona, had a huge soft spot for his other students, the Pandavas, who were on the other side. He was worried Drona might hold back, so he decided to weaponize his teacher's oldest and most painful memory.
Let's break down exactly what he was doing here. In that one phrase, he reminded Drona of the original betrayal from Drupada. He twisted the knife by pointing out Drona's mistake in teaching so well that his own killer was now leading the enemy army. He was basically saying, see what happens when you're too soft on your students? Don't you dare make that same mistake with the Pandavas. You have to fight them with everything you've got.
This is what you'd call a diplomatic masterstroke. It's a precise, calculated psychological move. You use words to emotionally corner your own ally, to strip away any chance of mercy or hesitation, and to make absolutely sure they fight with total, uncompromising fury.
So when Duryodhana pointed across that field, he wasn't just pointing at a man. He was pointing at an entire story. A story of a friendship shattered, a burning desire for revenge, a teacher's impossible duty, and a lifetime of unresolved pain. All just to make sure his general would fight without an ounce of pity.
And all of this leaves us with a really fascinating question to think about. In the great battles of our own lives, what's really the more powerful weapon? What does more damage, and what really forces our hand? The sharp edge of a sword or the sharp edge of a memory?